Good evening. Ah. It has been a day. This is where we are with things at the moment. It's all pretty decent. No random crashes or visual glitching at the moment, apart from like... I think it's rounding errors or something for corners, but most of the time it doesn't happen, so it's fine. And I got these guys in just to check that everything sorts visually correctly. And it looks like it does. So that's pretty exciting. But at the moment the API for this is not particularly pleasant to use. So I need to make that better before I can start hooking it up to actual game engines so that you don't just phase through walls. And whatever. But we're getting close. I feel decent about this. And it's fun to just slide around. Okay. Let's see how we go. So, I kind of need a to-do list to get me focused. I might have to make like a thing for that at some point, but for now, I don't know. Because what I'd like to do... no, we'll do that another day, for sure. But I've got this thing to do. So objects at the moment are in this strategy buffer, which is not great because at some point you'll want to add and remove them, and it doesn't really support that. But I'm not sure on the best data structure to use here. Maybe a hash table, because then you can look up stuff by ID, which is useful. But setting up a hash table is a lot of code and a lot of work for very... Yeah, I'm not fully equipped to deal with that right now. So, and performance-wise, I don't know if I'm hugely concerned about that yet. I mean, it's nice that it's a single linear array at the moment, so that's good. Yeah, we just need to make sure that when we remove stuff from it, which we will invariably do, we do it properly. So it's fine. I think we can work around it. Yeah, because then we can... It'll get caught on the... Yeah, that's fine. So we'll try and do it like that for now. You actually have to do it as render objects. You can't do this anymore. Like that. Sprite ID, not relying on sprite ID is a good thing, so that seems to be fine. We need to do that again. I made a bunch of changes just to test that things were correct earlier today, so I need to undo some of those. Oh, that didn't work. Nope, that's not true anymore. That should be null. And let's just init sprite to 0. Just for safety reasons. Nope. I hate that I do that. I need to turn that off. It's not as useful as I thought it would be. Yeah. And then I had to implement my own sorting algorithm. So I've probably made a horrible choice here, but that's fine. Like that. Oh, did I not include mems? I guess not. Wait, what? Pointer value size. That's what I did. Unless I just picked the wrong library. Is it in string? No, it's in string. Okay. It's not where I expected it to be, but there you are. Okay, that's all fine. So if I put in another one, we should have 4. And these all render correctly. Very nice. Okay. Good. That seems to not be causing me problems. I ran into a lot of issues where, like, it must have been like uninitialized memory somewhere, because it would be only sometimes when you booted up the program it would look strange or crash or whatever, which is not helpful. So push object. And we probably should have a remove object, and that will actually take a ref, I think. Oh, but you could do it the other way. Strictly speaking, there isn't a ref yet because I lost a bunch of work in the previous stream, so that's fine. We'll mess with it like this for now, because, well, maybe we introduce that instead. Maybe we do it that way and we actually do bring back the ref, or the reference object. Might be better. There's a lot of code in here as well, so cleaning up some of this, or at least extracting it out, might be good. Oh yeah, so I've also got this horrible thing that really shouldn't be in the library, because I want to have user creatable maps or whatever, so you need to have that separate. That's this stuff. See, at least I know it's temporary. Alright, so that seems to be working. So if we told the renderer, here is a reference, please delete things, run VM. And tile, I guess it would just be an ID, wouldn't it? Because you'd have double ID is ren get slot double VM1, like that. And then we'd need to go renderer objects ID is equal to renderer objects last. That should be an int 64T. 64T. Or maybe these should be size t's? Well, yeah. It's fine. This should be last SB count renderer objects, like that. That should be -1, like that. Oh. If last is greater than or equal to 0, then we can carry on. I don't think this would, I mean, yeah, we should be defensively programming, so. Although they're uints, so they never would be, right? So maybe this should be count. Count is greater than 0. Like that. But then there's no obvious way to shrink the array, I don't think. It's buff. Oh, I guess you could do it the other way. So you can do SB last objects. No. Like that. It might be good if the array entries can actually mark when they're not used or something, because then you just blank out the entry and then it's not in use. That might be better. But then you're not pushing each time, so that sort of sucks. Like you'd have to build a layer on top of the stretchy buffer. Because I don't think anything causes the buffer to shrink. Does it? Yeah, nothing actually causes it to shrink. I mean, I could try and write a shrink, just hash define I'm nervous about doing this, but it's fine. I guess, yeah, you need to duplicate the thing above to be like, I'm gonna try and grow this, but instead I'm just gonna try and shrink it. So, like that. There's a space here. That's an and then we have to put the brackets around it to protect this when we evaluate it. It's equal to stb sb grow f a, and oh, I must have not done that right. Oop. And then I need to evaluate that correctly. Size of oh, but that won't work, right? Because it'll. Does it ever shrink it? Because I guess you could just do. Well, we can cheat basically. Oh, almost. Because you could do size of star A like that, but you can basically do negative. So you say just grow it less. I mean, there's absolutely no way that I could possibly shoot myself in the foot doing this, but I mean, I suppose it would be best if I could cap it to be no bigger than the size of the array. But oh, but it'll still just ignore it, because it'll be like, if the double size is less than, or is more than, yeah, it'll just ignore it, so that doesn't work. I'd have to actually do a real shrink function. That's very annoying. So that doesn't work. Because the alternative is that you have just a logic, like, I've been using the stretchy buffer so that I don't have to write my own buffer handling stuff. Because I could write something that would do the job, it's just I didn't want to. But if shrinking is like this, then I have to implement my own little tracking of the number of available items or whatever, and then at that point I might as well have written it myself. So I didn't gain that much. It was a little annoying, but it's fine. It's fine. So I guess that's the solution we end up on. Renderer.h. It's down here now. Size t object count, and then renderer object count plus plus, and then this would be renderer object count minus minus. And then I need a little thing in here that says, as like a marker, just whether it's alive or not. Although I suppose you could have encoded it, we could encode it as a next ID. So you say if the ID is 0, nothing can have the ID of 0. Yeah, let's do that. Nothing can have the ID of 0. An ID of 0 means the entry is not in use. valid ID. IDs are greater than 0. Okay. SB count, please. So basically at this point, we've got this. Render objects. Last.id is equal to 0. Oh, yeah. Well, they seem to compile, so that's good. Object count is render object count, like that. And I need to go into the sort, because this bit's no longer true. And assert that the item.id is greater than 0. Does assert take extra stuff? Is that useful? I don't know. Like a custom assert function might actually be really good if you could like leave a little messages to the cause. No, that will just continue. Anyway, we'll come back to it. I've been watching a lot of stuff recently, and someone's got their own, or various people implement their own assert type functions, and it looks pretty useful to have. I think that covers all of our main cases though, so. That bit's fine because we've not deleted anything yet. Load texture. No, not load texture. Push object. Yeah. Remove object. Hey, Jazzy D. How are you, good friend, good sir? I'm glad that my audio is working at least. Oh, I'm doing all sorts of things. Let me just get this little bit working and I can show you what we're up to. I guess this might return its ID, and then I can just do Raycaster remove object ID, so there should, assuming that actually works, it might just crash. Yeah, I thought it would crash. Raycaster does not implement remove object. Oh, that's true, it doesn't yet, because I haven't done the thing. I forgot I have to do it in here as well. extra ID. We'll do that for now, just to cheat, and then we can go have a look. Yeah, that looks like that. Oh, that looks like that worked. So what I'm doing at the moment, I got this lovely 3D raycasting engine that I've been putting together for ages. And I'm just making it sort of flexible at the moment. It's still, at the moment, in its prototypical stage. So the map is hard-coded, everything is basically hard-coded at the moment, and I want to make that easier to change so that the game, like there's no game here, it's just a scene. So I've said, this is the map, there are these objects in it, it looks like this. And I'm just moving a camera around at the moment. So there's no walls, I can just go through everything. So once I've finished polishing up the API that lets me change the contents of the scene, I can hook it back up to the actual game logic. And then there'll be stuff. Still sort of early days, though. Partially. I've done that kind of thing before. I did the same sort of thing last year, but the difference is that it was written purely in Ren, which is the programming language that Dome uses. So let's go. So last year I made this prototype, which, as you can see, does not have a great frame rate. Yeah, not ideal. But it has very good features, like it supports animation, and you don't see it here, but there is the ability to do doors and stuff. Yeah, exactly. I'm doing all the graphical rendering stuff, so making it so that you have the scene at the moment. So what I did, so this implementation is purely written in Ren. It is not very fast, because Ren is an interpreted language, so it's a lot like Python in that respect, where it's being interpreted by the thing and it just runs, rather than being compiled to machine code like other languages. Python will do other things that makes it pretty fast. Ren doesn't have much of that. So this time around, assuming that the game will let me quit, I've been taking advantage of Dome's native plugin system, where you can basically bolt on extra bits of native code, so it's much faster. Which is why this is buttery smooth. Buttery smooth. Yeah. And it's a huge difference. Strictly speaking, I had to add a whole bit of plugin API stuff. So Dome supported plugins, but you couldn't do any graphical things yet. The only thing you could really add was, like, you could link out to other libraries that people have written, and you could add your own audio systems. But there was no graphical stuff yet, because the plugin API is very new. So I added a basic graphics plugin API, because I knew that this actually doesn't need very much to be able to do that. The reason that it was so slow, running it purely in Ren, is that for this kind of rendering, you have to go pixel by pixel down the screen, across the screen, and it does it in stripes. So it goes basically like a graphics card does. It basically says, this pixel is where in the world, what do I have to pick to show it? And for that sort of operation, Ren is not very fast because it has to do lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of calls. So Dome doesn't handle that very well. Once you put that in a native framework, it is so much faster because it doesn't have to round trip through the interpreter. It's just doing it on the CPU, basically. So it can be ridiculously smooth. And now we're the sort of speed that you'd get from playing something like Doom or Wolfenstein. And it actually looks pretty good. So yeah, at the moment this is purely visualizing that. And then what I want to try and do is hook this back up to the logic that was powering the previous example that I showed you. But before that, I still need to make this actually usable. So that's what I'm doing. It's not the most interesting stuff to look at when I'm working on it because it's a lot of code. But yeah. And I'm still feeling my way to what I want this to look like and how I want it to work. It's new ground. So we're on the cutting edge for Dome, at least. Yeah. So all of the stuff in here, starting from about here, is basically saying, here is the map. From this position, what does the world look like? And then go pixel by pixel and draw it. And so it has to do that in two halves. It has to be like, from this point, go forwards in the world and find out what's in front of me and how far away it is. And then there's the next bit that is, now that I know how far away it is, what is there and what should I be drawing? And then also draw the ceiling and the floor above and below it. Exactly that. And this is how very old games started to do 3D, is raycasting. It doesn't become ray tracing until you start doing that multiple times with the addition of a light source. You notice that there's no lighting here. Really, it's a trick. Everything is just a flat color, but we just assume that if things are in this orientation, they're brighter than if they're in this orientation. And it gives it this visual trick of looking like it's lit. But it's dumb and it's not very realistic, but it looks good enough. And people shouldn't care too much. But it's basically like the first step to ray tracing that you'd get in highly intensive graphical applications. But yeah, the engine, yeah, it supports doors, and doors open and close, and they're double-sided, and it supports thin walls. So if you wanted a bit of visual detailing, this wall is actually minusculely thick from both sides. And that can actually be shifted forwards and backwards. So you could do like secret doors and things. So there's options visually, and like every tile can have its own floor and ceiling texture, so I don't have to use the same texture for everything, I just am. But the problem is, at the moment, yeah, this is the world map. This horrific list of numbers is the map. So The door is here, that opening and closing door. And then you've got the room that it is, and all the little pieces, that like the blocks that are just sort of on their own and whatever. And this shouldn't be in here. The renderer shouldn't care about this. Or at least it shouldn't hold it. You can pass it in from the game code, is the intention. So I need to have the system that lets you push the map into the renderer. You can push the textures in already. And I was just doing it for the... Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Like, it wouldn't be hard-coded at that point. You can then have the map come in from files or a level editor or whatever. So yeah, and then you can put in your objects, which are basically just... in 3D graphical terms, it's a billboard. It's called a billboard. So it's just a flat panel with an image on it that just turns to face you, no matter where you look at it. So all the objects or interactables, the sprites and enemies and whatever, are all that, as they were in those older games. And they're basically just images of things coming towards you or moving away from you. And you can do tricky things where you have like 8 directions of a sprite, and like it could change it based on where you are relative to how it's facing, which could be quite nifty, depending. Although drawing 8 directions of a sprite is not my idea of fun. It's still cheaper than some things. But basically, what's nice though is that this lets you do 3D stuff, in a sense. Like, it's the first sort of 3D experience I'd be able to give to the world. And it's still functionally... Like, there's no jumping, it is still functionally a 2D game. It's just, it looks 3D, and that's quite cool. That was a lot of rambling. I just haven't decided yet how I want to push the map in. Like, I don't like this as a format because these numbers don't mean anything, except at the moment it's what texture to use, and that isn't great necessarily. Like, that should come... Well, I guess it could be. Like, yeah, like... You want to supply... There's lots more information about individual tiles that needs to be recorded. So you kind of want to supply a lot of that stuff together. Although this is... Yeah, like... I don't have a level editor, so I haven't decided how I'm feeding in this information yet. And I may not write a level editor either, because who can be bothered? But basically, every tile has got this information in it. So it's like, is this thing going to be solid? In which case, it looks like a wall. If it's not solid, it's not there. And then, is it a door? Is the door locked? I haven't decided if I want to use this yet, but it might be useful to have. Is it like partially open? Is it stuck open? Is it closed? And then is it opening or closing at this moment? Because that lets you manipulate it and whatever. Yeah, no, I'm not expecting you to. It's just, I'm verbalizing. It's just so you know what's going on. And then for an individual space, it's telling you what tile textures to use. Although I suppose that if it's solid, you don't see these two because the block takes the space, but it's still useful. Tricky. I got a thing on my face. Okay. So the thing that we do... Yeah. That's an option. So this is like my test interactable thing. So this is it setting up all the stuff. So it's like, get me the Raycaster, set the camera position, add all of these textures, and then, so in here we want to start setting up the actual map. So dot, because the thing is that you might set it so that you have to, well, you want to probably, oh, there's tricky things here. Like, if I changed level, for example, would I tear down the entire Raycaster, load up new textures and start again? Or would I want to retain the textures, the whatever, swap out the map? And that's tricky. Probably somewhere in between, but for now, probably throwing away and reloading is not ideal. Especially if, yeah, because there's no texture caching going on. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Changing the map dynamically, at least, would be nice. There are days where it feels like magic. Because you could have something where it's like map 24, 24, and that would set your width and height or whatever. And then you could just be like default tile. It does sound very magical, doesn't it? I cast a ray, I do a thing, I make lights happen. Ooh. So you could, like, feasibly, level files could start looking like this, where you have solid equal false, floor equals 1, ceiling equals 2, and that would be like your default, and then you could set specific stuff, maybe. So then tile, not sure. I did not plan this very well. I suppose it doesn't hugely matter. So long as you can encode the information that you need, it doesn't usually matter. So maybe you actually do it differently. I must have done this before. Oh, no, this is fine. You could do, like, you could define prefabs. You could say, give me tile 1. Well, this would be tile 0, I guess. Or type 0. Something I like to do when I'm like developing this stuff is I'm just sketching out an idea. So, because it gives you an idea of how it could work. So then you can basically set all this stuff, and then like you can set all these properties basically, and then later on you could be just, here's the layout. Well, that'll be all ones. So then you'd have you'd basically have this whole bit. in here. But now those numbers wouldn't be textures, they'd be types of tile. And that would be better, I think. Because this thing being the way it is sucks, because it is specifically encoding the graphics and nothing else. So the, yeah. Whereas then at least I could be like providing the other stuff. So that could work. This would need to be end tile. Yeah, so it basically, it changes the nature of the data to be something a bit better. Exactly. Wall equals 3, I think I had it named. So then you'd basically do it like that. Or you might even use names for these or something. So I could name the texture and it would load in the textures. A lot better. And then you could build an editor to manipulate all of this stuff a lot more smoothly. Let me go through this for a moment and just make this a bit better. Oh, I don't have a good way of doing it. So it'd have to be ones, like that. And the twos. And the threes would be like that. And then this would be 2 because that would be a door. And then to like accurately represent what's going on at the moment, we'd have the third. It's not a door, but it is thin. But we'd still have the wall texture that's the same. I think it's called wall 1 because I have a few different ones. Like that. I like, so I do this, I end up doing this a lot, this style of config file. Level begin. And it's not how you'd probably package something professionally, but I like human readable config, because that means that even though this is ugly, I don't strictly need to make a level editor, because I understand what's happening here and I can still edit it manually if I have to. And I end up using this sort of thing a lot. I must have a template somewhere for the parser that I'll need to read it. But it's also a very simple sort of thing to read, iterate through, or get the computer to read through. Default. You probably would actually do it like that, because then this can just be your defaults that matter for everything. Is there anything extra in there? So, because some of okay, so there's two different things. Some of this stuff has to be done early. Like, you need to know what it's going to look like the moment the screen renders. But some of this stuff is also decided at runtime, like whether it's open or closed, whether it's opening or closing, whether it's currently locked. Some of that stuff doesn't have to be set straight away, so you'd probably have some standards for that as well. If it wasn't included in the level default, you'd probably just default to that for everything. Because then when you read the map, it'll go through and be like, oh, this is tile 1, I know what tile 1 is like. But this has only got these bits, so then I jump to this bit and it's got these, and then I go, oh yeah, the system defaults are like this, and we use that. This actually probably needs to come down here. I mean, you might not even need this now because, well, you might want this. Yes, that is a good spot. That's not what I wanted. You're correct. That is meant to be like that. Oh yeah, I suppose that makes it fairly redundant, right? Because then your 0 will basically never have any, or rarely have anything in. So maybe then you could just say if there's not an ID for it. They might, yeah. Potentially. I mean, you can have it in there. It's not like it'll hurt anything. It's just whether it is better not to include it and like allow for it to just not exist. So if for whatever reason there's nothing in there, I don't actually need to say there's a tile 0, it has nothing in it, because you can just default. But then if you later decide that you want something, you could do whatever you wanted. Like, oh yeah, no, I decided to change the ceiling for a bit, or something. So we might allow both. Not quite. So what the reader for this would do is it would basically get its tile and then look up, based on that value, what the tile should be. So say we're doing the 2 over here. So it's like, as it's inserting, it basically composites the config together. So it says, I'm adding the 2, tile 2 looks like this. Or maybe it does it in reverse, really. It was supposed to be like, here are the defaults, and then I add on these special settings for tile 2 on top of that. Because that way you get all of these properties, but then you set them. Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. So the reader would have to do that when we get there. Because that way, like, this is a much more workable map compared to what we had before, where it's like, I've encoded only the graphics and not even all the graphics. It's literally the walls look like this thing, and then all the rest of it was defaulted or manipulated separately. This is more, it captures the data model a lot better to do it this way. You might even have other things. You might even have like your level data in here, description, a nifty place to hang out or something. And then you could even start afterwards with your objects. And then you can spawn in all of your objects. I don't need to do that. So yeah, I like this style of config for things. When I'm just noodling about like this, it works out pretty well. Because then you could be like, I think I've got stuff at like 1212. And then you could do all sorts of extra stuff with specifying the config of whatever this object is going to be, but we're not there yet. But you could have named AI pieces or whatever their behavior should be in there later. So we're strictly speaking a long way from that. But that at least gives me an idea of how the level data will end up in the game whenever we get to that point. So now I know what I need to do, or that's the first step. So now I need to figure out how to go from having that resolved data, I suppose, to inserting it into the renderer. Which is not too bad. I suppose it just ends up being a thing. So, oh god, what have I done? Okay. So at the moment, the interface for it is a bit rough, but you can manipulate individual tiles like this, where you can say like, for the renderer, give me the 8x8, the x8, y8 tile, set these things on it. And this is how that door is opening and closing at the moment. And then this is putting objects into the world. This is putting an object in and removing it. Which we're pretty sure works. And this lets me manipulate other things. But I don't really want to have to do this for every tile, because that would be expensive. So maybe I need to make it a bit flatter of an API. Okay. So what I'd want it to be like is more like, well, there's two different ways. Because you could do 6, 6. Well, maybe you do want it that way. I mean, it would be temporary because you don't store them, so it's not the end of the world. Although, like a builder API is kind of nice. This is going to be weird stuff. So I don't know, because this is one way of doing it. You just do that, but then you could do it in. So this is so-called fluent style, as an example, which we could do. That might actually be quite nice. I've not done fluent stuff with Ren up until this point. It didn't work. You couldn't do this very well. The reason being, so this is how does the so the Raycaster is your presentation layer. What do things look like? If something has to change in what things look like, then you need a way of telling the renderer, this thing changed, please change it. So it's like this door, like the game decides this door is now open. The renderer needs to open the door, or show that the door is open. So you have to interact with it in some way to say like, this tile has changed its properties in this way. And it's the same way that you do it with the level loading. So yeah. We don't want that in the end. So it's just, how do I make changes to the scene in a sane way that is convenient? Because potentially you could have lots of properties that need to change. And I actually like this. This is actually quite good. I wasn't expecting to like this. A lot of this stuff is scratch. It's just me testing things, so don't think about it too hard. I do a lot of this when I'm like figuring out what I want the code to look like, well, what I want the API to look like. Because it's something that you have to use, you kind of want to get a feel for how you would interact with it. It's like trying to make a handle for something without ever holding the thing. And if you do that, you might make a handle that's horribly uncomfortable to hold. So I'm doing the programming equivalent of like testing it and getting an idea of what I'd want to hold, and then implementing it. So none of this bit would work right now, it doesn't exist. But now I know that that's possible, and it's actually pretty friendly for the sort of thing that we'd want to do. Yeah. I develop all of Dome that way. Hey, Ben! Long time no see. In the one-way direction. Oh. How are you doing? Yeah, I think we'll go with a Fluent API. I like this a lot. It's going to be annoying to fix a bit, but can I go to the Raycaster? Doing good, very busy procrastinating, but doing good. I'm also surprisingly pretty good. Yeah. I've been so-so for a while. And then this week has been a lot better than I expected it to be. I've been literally working from home for the past 20 months. And the office reopened finally this week. So seeing real people and working in a space that is shared is a huge boost to my mental health. So I'm surprised at how much of an impact that's had on me. So at the moment, at least, I'm in a good mood. I'm in a good place. And I've also been in the mood to work on Dome again, which hasn't happened for several months. Yeah. I mean, it helps that they're bribing us with pastries. So 2 days in a row I've had pastries upon arrival, which has been good. That definitely helps. So I'm mostly sugared up, but we won't talk about that too much. I actually want the REN file. It really is. I mean, I've been feeling the trend of my mood going down for a long time now. But it was really, really good to be in a space, like, just things like commuting for me is really important. because it gives that hard divide between work and life, which I don't quite like. I simulated it working from home, but it's still different, and it's a lot better working in a shared space with other people, because then it feels like the work is relevant to other people. So, yeah. 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 Okay. So I think I'm keeping the world tile, and I'm going to keep all this stuff, although I may not. What we'll probably do though is have a bunch. Yeah. So the simple way of doing this would be to keep all of these setters and probably introduce a couple more. This will be legacy. Phone, floor, texture ID. I kind of don't like that, but it's just because it's going to be tedious to do. I do wish that we had got the data field extension available to us, but we're not there yet. Because then ceiling can be like that, and Ruby and I were talking at one point about making it so that you could declare a field that has both of these just as one thing, but we couldn't come to nothing really got set in stone. But something like foreign var ceiling texture ID would just generate a getter and setter together, so that you don't have to do this pairwise thing the whole way down, because it's repetitive. And then if you needed a separate getter and setter, you could just implement your own. Exactly. But that isn't officially on the roadmap as far as I know. But it's something I wish that we had. You never know. Ruby's been busy with things though, so I do not begrudge her for not getting a lot of stuff done with Ren. Yeah. So what I want for these is to be like thin value, and then it can be like thin equals value, return this. I don't know about Office, but I mean, she officially started a company, a whole game studio to make Lux and Lux-based games, which is exciting. Yeah. Like, going full-time on Lux is just, that's very cool. I envy for some amount. So now I just have to do this for everything. Offset. I could be here a while, so. I guess I might just call this wall texture. We could do some sneaky things there. No, we'll be verbose. We will be verbose for now. Otherwise I will get upset later at myself. Sorry, texture. I don't expect you to change a lot of these during gameplay. Apart from, well, you never know. We'll support it. But this repetition is why I don't normally do fluent style things, because it's a lot. Although I did pick something that is already established with lots of fields, so it's my own fault. It's my own fault. Actually can't see what else is in here. Solid would be good. Yeah. Last I remember, Ben, you were studying, right? You had finals or something? Is that still... Hopefully that went well. Hey, congratulations! We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6, 7, 8. I've missed one. It's probably the door flag. I missed the door flag, yeah. Yeah. I guess I might just take these out because I don't think they're used anywhere. And to be honest, it's not any better. So then I just have to write the rest of the things. That can keep now. And then we go down to set texture. Yep, see you in a bit. Like, there are so many fields for this thing, I actually made macros because I couldn't be bothered. Ceiling, texture ID. Floor texture ID. Floor texture ID. And wall texture ID. That should be a double. Oh, yeah, that should be setter. That one needs to be a getter. And then be back soon, I imagine. Yeah. So these went away. Okay. Ceiling texture ID. Oh, misspelled it. Ceiling texture ID. Not sure if you've been paying much attention to what I've been up to over the last couple weeks, but if you haven't, I will show you once I finish all of this stuff. And oh, Ah, that's the trick. That's the trick. That's the thing that we're fixing today. Sort of. We're cheating. Let me just get to this, and then I will show the thing. So, okay, did that actually compile? Okay, right. Yes. I mean, I can show you what it used to be like if I do it properly. No. Oh, right, I'm too far out there. This is Raycasting. Oh, that's grindy. Oh. Stutter City. This is what I put together last year, running entirely in Run. I think, let's see what it says. So I'm actually really happy with this in a weird way. So we're running at about 7 frames per second. But, and this is really important, even though the graphics are rendering at 7 frames a second, the movement speed of the character is correct. You notice that the simulation is still pretty good. Like, even though the images are stuttery, we're still moving through the world correct. And that is because of the decoupled game loop. So that's good, that works. I don't normally have to rely on that to get anything to work. But yeah, that is the intentional movement speed of this particular engine. Mostly because I hadn't tuned it or anything, it's just that is what it was set to. But that is what the movement speed should be. So if I did things to reduce the load, we should move at the same speed. Give or take. I mean, it might be a little bit harmed, but still, like, yeah, we're not doing great on the frames per second, especially if I get further away. Like, you can see that, look, if I come back over here, it goes up. It gets better if you don't do floors and ceilings. If you take out the floors and ceilings, you can probably get up to 30 frames a second. But that's still heavily optimized to get to that point. Where we are here, if it doesn't crash on us, because I've just made a bunch of changes, so yeah, that's fine. I expected that to some degree because I did forget something. Tile XY should give me a return world tile dot init this XY. This is not ideal, but it'll do. It'll do. It's fine. Make please. So this is same sort of world map running in C. This is a native plugin, basically, with the Raycaster in it. Running at double the resolution, so it's rendering 4 times as many pixels. With sprites, the thin walls. That FPS counter is a bit broke because I think that it does something strange when OBS is running. But when I run this without OBS running, it records about 50 frames a second. Which is passable. I will accept that. It's a different movement speed just because the actual engine is not in any way tuned to the correct speed for gameplay at the moment. This is just me moving a camera around. But it's so much nicer, right? And double the resolution, so I basically doubled the height and width, so it's the same aspect ratios, but in theory you could get a more detailed sprites in because the screen can be bigger. So these are 64 by 64 sprites and textures. And it still runs really smooth. And that's because I added, for the next version of Dome, some graphical APIs to the plugin system so that you can push and pull pixels to the canvas natively, as well as load images. So this is a great way for me to test out that stuff. And I can't help but just fly around doing this. It's silly. But at the moment it's just a renderer, there's no gameplay attached. So once I get the renderer where I want it, I will start appending, or I want to take the engine that you just saw, but with this renderer, and smush them together. So I guess in theory that's now possible, and that's now possible. If you wanted. And that's now possible, I guess. I don't think you'd ever want to do it that way, but you can. Yeah, the door still moves. That looks alright. I'm happy with that as an API though, because then I can do all sorts of things with it as like a builder. I just wish that you could release handles better. Because at the moment it doesn't do that very well. Which is suspect. Like the other way to do it would be, no, there's no way of doing it because you can't, well, that's not true. There's lots of tricky things I could do to simulate it in a much better way. Well, in a more proper, correct way, but I'm cheating for now and it's fine. Oh, actually, if I took this out, I guess it would look a little different to how it was, and that's a good test. Because then you can see, okay, that's not changed. Oh, it's because the value might actually be wrong. Six. And 0.5, I think. I think it's a 0.5 to 0.5, so it's actually correct. But let's just double check. Yeah, so now 0.5, this is now flush on this side, and all the way in on that side. See how that works, that's good, okay. And we can use the same API to do other stuff. Nice tile API. Well, I suppose fluent tile API. I've never done fluent APIs in Ren before, so that's a whole new bit of ground. That alone was worth this stream. And I committed, so I can't delete it like I did last time. I mean, I can find a way. I could find a way. I won't, but I could. So I guess if I wanted, I probably should mirror that for the world object. That's probably the right thing to do. So then, like, you do that. Foreign X. Like that. And you might want to do. I need a better out-facing name for these, but the code as I have it written calls them vdiv and udiv, and I don't want to make a better name than that right now. vmove makes more sense. Well, sort of. Yeah. I think that's everything that this actually supports. So then I need to do the fluent version. I mean, I don't need to do the fluent version. It would just be kind of nice to. For both of them, it's kind of optional. We'll leave it as is. Fluent API. Oh, actually, we probably want to just have the ID. You can't set the ID, but object ID return world object.init this ID like that. So then you'd probably do the same thing here. Well, you could do that. So then you could possibly do that as well. Because then you get the same basic look to it. You'd probably get rid of that one, actually. And I guess you might do because you could do something like create me an object, if it exists, should we create an object? Maybe. If not, this is a decent enough constructor. Yeah, let's get that removing. Strictly speaking, the world object doesn't exist yet. I actually haven't got that as a real class. So how this compiles, I have no idea. That's a good question. How does this compile? Could it be that it just doesn't try and bind it until it finds an instance and then... No, I didn't mean to run it again. Okay, so... Did I? Oh. I didn't comment it out or anything. So that's a bit strange. Oh, it just didn't have anything. Oh. Oh, can you just declare foreign classes then? That's weird. Okay, well, I learned new things today. Object, obj allocate, obj finalize. Probably. I mean, I think there is actually already those, so I might have to change it. Object.remove. Just gathering my strength to continue with this bit. So you can't set your ID, but then get texture ID maybe? And then we need to set texture ID. And now we can start doing these pairwise. like that. And then the Y. And then I have to do the same thing here. Oh, I can't do that with the ray thing, but udiv, udiv. Nope. And then udiv. That's our v's. That's vdiv. And then here we just want div to be move. There. I think that's everything I wanted there. So next, okay, I don't have obj allocate yet, that's good. So it's probably very similar to this. Obj allocate. And we actually need an objdref. Typedef struct objdref. URN64TID and handle. To be honest, I might want to make them no, not for now. Having like a category or like a generic ref object or generic reference thing might be good. But I don't actually know how I'd use that. And then this is the bad thing that we do. Like that. Because 0 is now an invalid handle, which is good. Oh, I did put that in the wrong place. That's objdref. Yeah. So then I basically get to do... Oh, well, that can go. I don't need that anymore. But then I'm basically doing all of this stuff for object. I'll probably pull these out into separate files as well because these are getting a bit long. I was wondering how my audio sounded compared to previous streams, if you feel like there's much of an opinion on that. Well, that's good. Something that I got very shortly before I stopped streaming for the hiatus was the lapel mic, And I think that the lapel mic is a lot better than my previous audio hardware. So I am relieved to hear that it's earning its keep. I'm not actually sure if you can see it because I have no idea what my video looks like. But it's nice because it's like right next to me. Because I think that previously the audio was either coming through the MacBook's internal microphone, which means you would have heard the clack, 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 clack of my keyboard, or it was going through like a USB-C to headphone adapter, and that wasn't very good. So I think that might have been the reason the volume was so poor. Like it just wasn't amplifying for the microphone that I was using. But this is perfect, it just plugs straight in. So that's a relief. I think I also understand the OBS meter for things. Oh, that's good. Quality is important. But yeah, I think that I understand the volume meter for OBS a lot better. So that makes things a bit easier too. I've read, yes, I have read it, but only online. I mean to pick up a hard copy at some point. It's very good. I recommend it. Yeah. The C version doesn't do... actually, I don't remember. I skipped over the Java section because I wasn't planning to do a Java thing. Which is probably one of the reasons to go back and read it, actually, now I think about it. It takes... Yeah, the C version, like, uses the call stack, I guess, as its AST. So... maybe? Actually? I'd have to go have a look. It's not the same, for sure. Oh yeah, it's an incredible book. Having read compiler literature in the past, it's far better than a lot of the things I had to deal with for my degree. I wish that we'd had it. I mean, it's not perfect because it's not... it only covers the interpreter bit, which is still important, but it's not like full compiler knowledge, which would be useful. But yes, very good book. And there's a lot of parallels between how LOX runs and how Ren works. So it was really helpful for figuring out how to contribute to the Ren project, for me at least. get slot field type VM1. And yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with game programming patterns. The book is incredible and free, and I reference it often, but I'm still happy to have a hard copy on my shelf. I'll be honest, a lot of the way that I do game dev is inspired by Bob. It's a problem. I need the sort because I want this thing. I need this bit. I guess that we can do that. I don't know if that's technically faster, but well. Yeah. Return item. Render a get object, render a get object. I reckon that all works. So then I just need to set some things. I mean, we could test it. No, we can't because we've got all of them in there, so. Yeah, that's a double. I think all of these are doubles, actually, so... And then... texture... And then this is Y. Like that. And then udiv, udiv, and then these are V's. Like that, and then like that. And then all that's left is remove. and remove. I'm glad there are so many free resources for education these days. It just makes everything so much better. Well, I guess there's two parts to this, right? I need to... That's true. I suppose the problem with that is just that educational institutions need to verify that what they're teaching is appropriate, and reviewing those resources to make sure they are teaching the correct things isn't easy or takes time. So, yeah. Although it'll be, yeah, it's a trade-off. It's a definite trade-off. We don't actually need to do that bit because we already get the ID. And this bit doesn't work the way it should anymore because we now need to do this bit. Like that. Because it's basically... Oh, that's wrong as well. So that's good. Good job, me. There. It's like, if these have the same ID, then we can do this bit. Yeah. You're not wrong. There'd be... Yeah, I mean, some of it's cultural, I guess. Like, different areas of the world do different kinds of education and teach different things. Like, teaching history... Well, I suppose you could do individual courses for different kinds of topics, so it might not be so bad. People are still very... Yeah, it depends. For mandatory schooling, I didn't have to buy my own textbooks. At least up until the age of 16. I did have to buy my what we call sixth form textbooks, so age 16 to 18 textbooks, I did have to buy those. And then I was fortunate that at university I didn't have to use textbooks at all. All of our courses, I think, apart from one, did not rely on a book that you had to hold in your hand. So I lucked out. But that's not true everywhere, and it's not a universal experience. So, because I know that there's a big thing, at least for the US, as you said, where it's not just expensive, it's mandatory. You need to have this book, and it needs to be up to date. Which is horrible. But, yeah. I've done some weird things here now, so I need to focus for a moment. Have I really been streaming for 2 hours? Wow. Okay, so I have the idea, I have the count, I go through item by item. Then the last item is the count -1. So I guess we do that, and then we do that, and then we do that, and then we break. And then that should count as removing the thing. Handle if ID not found. And now this is world object, and it's just remove. And I think I also just called it remove, and it's now opt remove. Oh, I actually kept it here. Oops. Okay. Oh, I did stuff. Okay, 120. So I guess we have to do that instead. And then I've still got a stupid closing brace. As well as the fact that this doesn't actually exist in this list anymore, so that's renderer. I don't see... It might be okay. Nope, it's not okay. 127. Oh, it's because it's like that, yeah. Opt getter. So why doesn't it like that? That's strange. Ah. Ref ID for both of these. No, I should actually read those. No member named Y in opt. Is that true? Oh, it's a V2. Ah, it's a V2. Okay. Getter. I don't know if this will work as a result of that. And these are V2s as well. Oh, that's a div. There we go, that seems to work. So, okay. Let's double check that we can remove things again. That did not work. So we do that bit. At the very least, it should have reduced the... Okay, let's double check that we actually do. Evidently not. I've got both of those there. Test I... Oh, it would help if I put those bits. Item ID. Like that. I know that the values are wrong, but we'll go with it. Yeah, so it does the scan, but it doesn't compare it. So printf. Oh, it's coming from the... Ah, that's wrong. I get it. Ref ID, please. That still didn't work, though. Generally, I seem disciplined. Let's put it that way. I can be very flighty between projects. Like, I'm ostensibly meant to be working on like 50 things all at once. So I'm definitely not sticking to multiple things, but I'm pretty disciplined on Dome in particular, because otherwise it never, it doesn't hold itself. Like, I set for Dome specific standards that I expect myself to hold to. So that helps me focus, I guess. But it does mean that I do have a lot of unfinished projects generally, so it's, yeah, I'm not perfect on that one. Because I have a lot of different projects I want to work on right now. To be honest, there's like, so I want to be playing around with like 3D rendering. This is like the middle ground. Working on this Raycaster is the middle ground for that. Because to do real 3D rendering would be a huge time sink for me in terms of learning, because I've never done it before. So in the meantime, I'm doing something productive. 3D stuff-ish, but still useful. And this is helping me test things for Dome, so yeah. I appreciate the compliment. I never would have thought of myself that way, so it might just be the presentation that I give. Although, let me say this though, streaming helps, actually. When I stream, I am much more focused on a job or a task or whatever than I would be just noodling around on things. Because I'm being watched, or I could be being watched, so there's a very limited number of things I'm able to do while I'm streaming. As a result, I think I only need that and that. And I can get away with doing it like that. Not that that helps me, but do I just not set the ref ID properly? That might be it. Let me check that at the moment. I definitely have too many projects. There's a lot of things that I want to work on, and then like, let me think about it. Things I would love to have the time and energy to work on that I just never go back to. Like, I'd love to go back to working on improving Cartomancer, for example, or a bunch of other jam games that I thought, these are cool if they were more. And it just never happens. So, in the end, you end up working on what you really want to work on for however long that lasts. I think. I don't know, that didn't quite have anything useful to say. But I have lists of projects that I've started that I want to go back to. But I don't normally do so. This is the thing. When I was doing Cartomancer, I was on stream for about 4 days, and I got a lot done. So, definitely a great productivity tool in a way, which is weird because it's like a strange extra pressure. But it means that I can't switch to other jobs or other things. Having a plan up front helps. If you're doing a project and you know what you need to do for that project to be completed, or that task to be well defined, that can help. I didn't quite do it at this stream, although I wanted to. I wanted like a to-do list that I could be like, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. When I do various projects, jam games, whatever, I do make lists of things that I want to get done, that need to be done, and I just tick them off. as I go. That helps me. But yeah, the Raycaster thing is simple to stick with because it's got a well-defined completion, which is if this gets feature parity and can be linked to the engine of the previous version of this, that is done, complete, even if I don't actually use that engine straight away. I'm also doing this specifically to trial the graphics plugin API. So, like, that's the purpose of this, is to make me do that bit, which is less interesting, but I need to know. So, but yeah, for Dome in particular, I hold myself to higher standards than I would on my regular projects, so it's slightly different. I abandon a lot. A lot of projects get abandoned, let's put it that way. Yes, that's right. That was an experiment. Because I anticipated that Cartomancer would be much more complicated than most things, and because I know from experience what I needed for the 7-day roguelike challenge versus what I could produce, I broke it down into cycles of goals. The trick with that one was that it wasn't just goals and deadlines, it was end of day 1, if I have this is submittable. Like, it wasn't just that this is a goal that I have achieved, this is a version of done that I could give to somebody and say, I made that, it's complete. Even if it wasn't a perfect thing, it was complete in gigantic quotes. And then the next step is the next thing that would improve it and make it a different kind of done, a different kind of complete. So that was the experiment that I did with Cartomancer. At the end of every step for that, it was like, if I do this, this is a version of done. So that might work. I think that's better for a larger project where, like, that was like my attempt at doing game design documents, where like I plan things out, I know what I'm doing, etc. So if you can break down your project into those sorts of loops, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'll probably do that again. It's trickier for jams where you can't do that kind of pre-planning. But 7-day roguelike, you get time in advance to plan things, so I made the most of it. I'll probably do that again as well next year. Which means I have to go back to working on Parcel, because otherwise that framework won't quite be ready for me to do next year's roguelike. And so the list goes. Although I actually did a lot of... Parcel was actually my gateway to coming back to game dev. Because it was like, yeah, hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, that was a bug. Oh, yeah, so that's definitely wrong. Yeah, because I'm not setting the ID. I'm such an idiot. That's definitely part of it. It's just learning what works best for you, I think, in terms of managing yourself, how you focus, various tricks and tips and whatever, everyone's advice is only going to be so much of an applicable thing. I can give you my view on it, but until you apply it, you won't know if it suits you. And I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still discovering. Sorry, I'm looking over here because that's where the text is, so I imagine you being over there. Yeah. But yeah, I'm still discovering what works for me. So hopefully you can also follow along and then find your way. I don't want to... I don't know, can I easily show off this stuff? It might show off a bit more on stream than I want to. We'll see. Okay. Since I'm in here real quick, maybe I can... Right, so one of the things that I do is I come up with these kinds of lists for projects. So usually there'd be like battles. Why does it keep indenting? Stop indenting me. Movement. Magic. Like whatever. And then I have the line for MVP. And then all the extension stuff that comes afterwards. Although in this case I did actually for Cartomancer break it into the stages, as I said, where they were like completed loops of work. I've got my dome list, which is very... which is a similar thing. I break it vaguely. This is not a concrete roadmap, so there are no announcements here. Things I'd like to work on, or things that I think that we might need. And I break that into versions and possible future stuff. And this sort of thing works well for me. Helps me externalize it better. I don't necessarily use it all, but it's on my mind. So yeah. You find what works for you. I like lists. Lists work for me. It's easy to knock things out that way, and it's good. Okay. To give, yeah, I don't know if you can read back through the chat on Twitch or not. Otherwise, let me know if I need to give context to what that discussion was. Yes, that is ren get slot double VM2. There we go. That should work now. Two things? Two things. Haha. Okay. So, I think at this point, I'm pretty happy with the renderer's API. The only thing I'd maybe consider is like changing how you set the camera itself, but even then it's not terrible the way it is. I would like to split out the files a bit better. Oh yeah! Did I not show you the doors? The doors exist. The both versions of this engine support doors, so it can do these double slidey doors, and they both support thin walls like this one, which functionally don't help much, but they at least look cool. So it gives a bit of space texture, and you can use them for like secrets. So yeah. In theory, you can do doors. It's just I've got this set on a loop to just open and close for testing purposes. I do need to expose one more thing, which is the casting of a ray. Maybe? Well, actually, no. There's like, it's not just that. It's lookup stuff. Like, I need to know that if I'm pointing in a particular direction, what tile do I hit? And is there an object there? Maybe? Because the alternative is that you... I'm not going to add stairs. This kind of engine does not work with vertical movement. You'd have to do a whole other kind of architecture, which I'm interested in doing, but it would be from scratch. I wouldn't be doing it like this. I was looking at that recently as an alternative, and I really itchingly want to do it, but I know that then I would never get anything done, and I want to have this done before 70 FPS, so... I'm not even sure if I could do it either, but yeah, this is going to be flat world stuff. Not hugely visually exciting, but it's cool that it works, you know. Like, just the fact that you could do pixel by pixel, like you could probably do a full 3D renderer in software and pump it through Dome like this if you wanted, and it would run decent. Maybe not amazing. The next step after that is actually exposing a 3D hardware context. So OpenGL or Vulkan and or DirectX, I guess, would be the thing that I like. That's my extension that I'd really like to have done. Because then you could write other stuff and just use Dome for orchestration. And I think that would still be pretty good. Although integrating a 3D API at some point would be nice, maybe. But I don't personally know enough about making 3D games. I will look into that. Although I think that it might be doing similar things to what SDL already does for me. So it might be a bit overkill. Let's have a look. Because I've heard of Sockle. But I've not looked at it in enough detail. Oh, there's more of these things. The problem for the 3D stuff is because Dome comes with its 2D canvas built in, I need to develop the API or the mechanism for turning it off so that you can access OpenGL or whatever. And then you can't use the canvas at all, as far as I can tell. Maybe. Or maybe like you make it... Yeah. There's a lot of stuff around how you would use Dome with a 3D engine or with a 3D API that I don't know how to do yet. But it's... Okay. Create a window. Right, I can do that bit. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. This is the problem. I have no idea what I'm doing. What I need really is someone experienced with doing 3D stuff Okay. Yeah, I need someone who's used to doing 3D stuff to try and give me a usage with Dome. The problem is that it's usage first, so because I don't make 3D things, I haven't got a template to work from to know what I need to support. So it's scary. I'm not paying $44 for that. There's I have a different book for this. Because instead there is computer graphics from scratch, which I think does the same thing. Yeah. So the only primitive used in this book is a method that lets us set the color of a pixel. The thing really is just SDL doesn't actually do 3D at all. It exposes the basic context to you in a platform, like it's the platform layer. So getting a hardware context for 3D hardware is a pain on different platforms, so it just smooths over that bit for you. And then it does nothing else. But none of that stuff plays well with the existing 2D API pieces. And although I'm not really using them, I'm still using the standard visualization. What do I want to say? God, what do I want to say? Yeah, but basically it's just because I have a canvas, I can't just turn on OpenGL. I need to... Well, maybe you can. I don't know what happens, actually, if you do that. But I'd have to basically take out the bit of SDL I am actually using and then handle that bit myself and then start using OpenGL, I think. But after that bit, I have no clue what needs to exist or whether it's Dome's job to supply it. Because in theory, it could provide the bare minimum and just say, here is the graphics context, make a plugin. And that might work. But then there are certain bits of setup that Dome would have to do that I couldn't then give control over to anybody else. So I'm not sure yet. But that's something I would really like to do. I just don't have the knowledge and experience to do it. But I reckon you could work through this book and still get something pretty interesting, even if you're not using a hardware engine. It just might not be as performant. Although maybe it would be. Maybe you could do that as a thing. Sorry, that was a lot of ranting, and I'm not sure I said very much. It's hard to convey my thoughts the right way. So we got the object ref API now. I've been watching a series of someone putting together a whole engine, and this is someone who's experienced with 3D, and they clearly know what they want and what they need. And I don't have that experience. I don't make 3D stuff, so I don't know what you need. I don't have that experience. And I don't have the time to invest to get that experience necessarily either. Although maybe I should. I'm very focused on what I want to do. There was... That's true, a lot of people have done the hard work, but it's gonna be like anything that I try and glean from other people will be based on their experience, which means that I can't do it differently to suit what I think is right or comfortable. And with Dome, comfort is important. So, needs thinking about. But there's two halves. There's the technical challenge of how do I switch away from the software rasterizer that we have, and then there's the logical challenge of what do I need to do to support 3D, and how much of that is my responsibility to provide. Because I could say, Dome is a 2D engine, but it allows for extensibility, so if you want to write your own 3D renderer on top, you can. But maybe I should just pull that in and supply a 3D API. But then I'm basically writing Lux at that point. Well, not really. I'm writing discount Lux, I guess. Lux is no, that feels like an insult to Lux. Lux is fantastic, I think. At least I imagine it is, because Ruby's made it. So I don't think Dome really compares. They are very different. Well, I don't know. Are they different? I always feel weird about that. Anyway. Exactly. Like, the moment that you start providing 3D utilities, you basically have to provide everything, I guess. It's a slippery slope at any rate, because then people will ask me, why doesn't Dome do lighting? Why doesn't Dome do texture mapping? Why doesn't Dome do normal mapping and fancy shader stuff? And it's like, I don't know. It's because I'm one man. Well, one person. So maybe it's better to provide it just exposing the context and then go from there. But at the same time, it would be quite cool to be like, I built a 3D engine, look at me go. So, but I don't know enough yet to do that. At least I don't think I do. Okay. I did have... There's bits and pieces of this API missing still. Because you can't specify the size of the map, which is important. Yeah, it's basically all of this bit here that needs to be handled. Because at the moment you basically say, here's a Raycaster, and it just creates the map. So what I'd need is like Raycaster dot I guess it would be like create map, width, height. Although you could also pass it in directly. But yeah, I am like interested in doing 3D stuff because it's shiny in my brain. Like, oh, that would be cool. It's interesting. But I think it's also a distraction from making Dome generally better. But maybe, yeah, it's one of many paths. Getting this plugin API the way it is at the moment is a huge step forward for what we can actually do with the engine extra. So, like, modern machines can do a lot with software rendering, so maybe we can get away with it for a while. And maybe working through that book with Dome would be a good enough educational experience to then consider what I would need for 3D, for true 3D with hardware for the future. So maybe that's the plan. Because as shiny as it would be to work on OpenGL and show off that, it might just be too much right now. Collision is not, well, that's not true. Collision doesn't necessarily have to be that. No, it would be. Although I suppose that with plugins you can actually import your own physics engines, so that's something. Dome is actually set up quite well for physics because of the time step thing. Sorry, a lot of ranting today, I feel like. I suppose, like, if you could get to the point... It's a good thing. I think that it's better if you're going to have someone watch a stream for them to be interactive and vaguely distracting. I'm okay with that. It allows me to think about things, talk about what I'm up to and what I'm thinking about. And I think that's good. It's interactive. If you were just watching, it'd be kind of spooked to some degree. I mean, I don't mind if you just wanted to watch me try and do stuff as well. It's fine. I don't mind the interruption and the distraction. I'm at a paused point anyway. I'm trying to decide how I want to do this. It's not, well, it is a map, but it's like set dimensions, maybe? That's better. That actually matches the position and angle API a lot better. It'll do some weird stuff where it basically has to like wipe the whole map though, so we should remember that, but I think that's a reasonable thing to expect. Renderer.ren, please. Oh, I gotta call it the renderer. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Oh, that's too much of a pun. And also, this is like the worst kind of thing to call a renderer. It's a nonsense word. Set dimensions. Width, height. Set dimension. Nope. Dimensions is a weird word to try and spell. Width, height, and UN 64 T's, please. And then I mean, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm quite proud of the logo. I thought it was clever. But if it didn't really get clicked in your brain, then maybe I did a bad job? I don't know. Fair enough. It is surprisingly, it turned out really well, and I'm grateful to the artist who did it for me, because I could not have produced that. I sketched it. I have a photo somewhere. I basically spent 20 minutes with a piece of paper sketching out various logo ideas, and then I gave that to an artist, and an artist did the vector art for it, and it was just perfect. And here we are, 2 to 3 years later. 2 years, I think, for the logo. I would like to upgrade the website though. I'm not 100% happy with the layout and design for the website. I think it could be better. There's also just, it needs more tutorial content available. The on-ramp for Dome is not smooth enough, in my opinion. A lot of people have said that to me, is that it's just, they don't have enough learning material to get started with, so they don't. Some sort of guided path would be good. But I don't really have the inclination to write that at the moment. I can just about squeeze out doing documentation. Map.tiles, width multiplied by height, multiplied by the size of a tile, please. And then memset renderer map tiles 0, width by height by size of tile. Because then you can basically pump in whatever you want. I think that the color scheme for Dome is the thing I like the most. Because it's not common. It sticks out compared to other people. Why is it complaining? Oh. Uh, 14. This will break. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I need to... Although I'm surprised that it thinks it's all solids, because it isn't. That's... yeah. Let's put some actual map stuff in there, but... y and 0. What did I just set it to? 14? And purple is my favorite color, so... it had to be purple. X, Y... solid, false. Let's basically get the defaults. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 8. I probably should make these a bit more user-friendly, because I would kind of just like to say floor and ceiling, but it'll do. If x is equal to 0, or, oh, I know why it was giving me problems earlier. It's because I was actually starting in a stupid place. Y is equal to 0, or x is equal to 13, or y is equal to 13. Then do something else. False, true, do that and make it 1, else do this thing. Yeah, because the actual position that we started on was not very good, so that should actually be like 4 and 4. And now we're in a very small room with a block. I don't know why this block is here. What? And it, what? Oh, it's because I set the door. Yes. Ah. So this is what happens if you have a thin wall or a door with no blocks either side. It doesn't know how to deal with that properly because of the perspective projection. So you just get this thing. That's what happens. And you notice that it changes based on my angle to it in terms of its width, because it's assuming that there's a block there to protect it. Like, as if it was peeking out of a block, it just doesn't render the hidden bit. It looks much better once you have, like, once you put the blocks around it, it looks better. Otherwise, it just looks really bizarre. But that means that we can pump our own map in now. Ignoring this block for a moment. And we got our guards, because they're still in the world, even if the world changes size. And so I think we're technically done. Because now I can go tidy up. All of this can go. Although, I don't know what will happen if you try and look at a map with no size. That could be a problem. Let's find out. So if I didn't do this, it would initialize with no size, right? And it just segfaults, yeah. Which makes sense. It makes sense that it would segfault. Because it will probably try and look up a tile that doesn't exist, because there is actually no memory for it. So it does this stuff here. Void tile, and then static. Like that, I guess? Oh no, that was actually fine where it was. Although maybe that wasn't. Oh, that breaks things. No, that doesn't work because it will break stuff, so I should probably have just a separate check elsewhere. Because I use this macro to assign to the world tile as well, it doesn't work. But anywhere that I use world tile, if renderer.width multiplied by renderer.height is equal to 0, tile equals void tile. Basically, you've got to do that kind of guard. Else, like that. That still doesn't work though. Does it tell me in the report where it actually crashed? Otherwise I have to boot up LLDB. Oh, in the setter? That would make sense, yeah. Yeah, that would make sense. Obviously. And this has the same problem. It doesn't check that stuff. So I guess it hits the performance a little bit, but because then you basically have to do tile, tile. Hmm. That's a bit odd. I'm surprised that that gets persisted. Like that, anyway. This sort of macro stuff is not great, honestly, but it's necessary. That should be like that, and then this should be tile equals void tile. Like that. So then this just no opposite if we can't. So maybe that's okay now? No. In the same place. Oh. It's because I'm using the wrong... Oh, crap, okay. %s renderer width multiplied. Alright, well, thank you so much for coming to hang out. It's been really good chatting with you. I will probably be streaming again sometime next week, so look forward to catching you around at some point. Have a good night. There we go. So now we render a 0 screen, and it doesn't just crash, although it's obviously bad. But then you can actually do stuff like this again, and it still works. So there we go. I think that tends to finish up. Is there any other quick bits of tidying I can do to remove things? Yep, I know that. This I don't need anymore. Renderer. Renderer. Top width. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all initialized correctly. Safely resize map. Okay. So at this point we could push our own data in, we can push the objects in with our own interface. I don't think there's anything else that the renderer has to do. I should refactor it so that we simplify this out slightly, because this is 700 lines of code now, 800 lines of code. Which is not ideal. And it's a mix of different pieces. Like that. Okay, what's happening with that? This thing here. There's some sort of rounding miscalculation, or some sort of miscalculation happening here, resulting in that. But it's so hard to capture, to monitor it. I'm not even sure what it thinks it's doing. Some kind of overflow, most likely. That whole line is a little glitchy though, so I'm need to look into it in more detail. And these guys are creepy because they look at you. See? But you could fix that. Okay, I think I'm going to call it for the day. There. So that makes all of that available. There's some good stuff on that branch. I made a couple bug fixes and improvements. It'll all get documented eventually. Next stream, well, no, it'll probably, next time, hopefully we'll have everything hooked up. Well, it might take a little while. Still, thank you everybody who came by to watch. It's been quite a long stream actually, but productive. We had some good chats. I'm not very tired, so catch you another day. See you later.